is the form in which I start this now. Audio is good, nice. Seems to work week over week for audio settings. I see Nav has brought Craig in to record the session. And welcome to the stage, Nav.
Hello, hello. Loud and clear.
How are you guys? How am I?
How are you doing, Graham? Long time no see.
Long time no see. Yeah, it's been a couple hours. I'm doing very well. I think Paul will jump in, but he might be listen only. I know Matt's on the road, so he'll probably be listen only, and we won't have Alex. So he'll
Right.
have to make do with me for the most part today, unless somebody wants to jump up on stage and co-host. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Familiar faces. So we'll let a few more people trickle in here, but we will be announcing our first city region area for programmatic capture, as we're calling it. And so that will be a city that gets a base map and then gets some level of refreshes, but the recurrence rate will be sort of per area or spexagon. This is in building towards the vision of this living map. So understanding which zones are more valuable, which zones are less valuable, which zones are being monetized and which ones clients are interested in, and then refreshing and having that living map move on a cadence that makes sense from a demand perspective or the perspective of the potential buyers and buyers, etc. I see a ping, trying to follow things around. I don't know what that is or who's chatting, but maybe it's in another channel. Looks like USA operations. Someone is chatting and has tagged me or tagged everyone. So maybe we jump in, and without further ado, this might be our crowd size. We're at 2:32 here, Pacific time. And so we will be launching somewhere between 700 and 1,000 spexagons, final count to TBD as we finish up planning in the greater Houston metro, more specifically League City, Texas. So South Houston. This was identified and decided upon after much internal strategic debate about the saleability and the development and change and why pixels are valuable and what imagery will be most valuable fastest, etc. So believe us, there were many sides to this story. There were many arguments made, and some more convincing than others. And this is where we landed for month one. So launch one, League City, Texas. So if you're in the Texas area, you can clap your hands. If you want to go to the Texas area, you can also clap your hands. And if you're not, you'll have to wait for July. That will launch some point next week. I don't want to give an exact day yet, again, because things come up and planning takes time and things like that. So next week, launch League City, somewhere in the 700 to 1,000 spexagon range. They will be hybrid. They will be 14 USDC, and they will go live in the morning sometime next week. Nav, anything to add to that?
No, you covered pretty much all.
I nailed it.
Yeah, you did, as always.
Uzi's after Ontario. We got to get him something in Ontario here. I know team is working hard on that.
Yeah.
The Esri, that is League City. Yes, it is sort of South Houston metro on the water between Houston and Galveston, Texas. As mentioned last week, the Esri content Skywatch Esri content store promotion and promotional marketing push goes live next week. A lot of these smaller demand missions you're seeing come online are the beginnings of the content store. So we're starting to see more usage. That was Abilene, Texas. Thank you, Duncan. That is Colorado Springs. That is the set of missions south of Pittsburgh. So, even just this week, we're seeing 3 or 4 requests come onto the network. Our goal, obviously, is to grow that number so that you guys have more activity and more to do. So that's looking really good. Actually, it's a little bit of a slower start than a lot of us would have hoped, but it is starting to roll. And I think with the big marketing push, we're going to see more and more of these AOIs popping up. And so the odds that one pop up near you gets better and better. And then we layer in programmatic capture on top of that with some city launches each month, some refreshes on stuff, different cadences, and we're going to start to see network activity pick back up I hope demand. There we go. You need some spexies in Nova Scotia? Yes, we do. The big conversations are obviously also continuing. So the Niantic Scottsdale is a direct Niantic request. There's some more conversations and deliberation with Niantic, so more in the pipeline there. We will be at the Esri User Conference early July, and lots of conversations with Esri Canada, so Nova Scotia and Ontario. We've got some hopes riding on our Esri Canada conversations. Some of the other large players we're looking at making these bigger capture partnerships. Hopefully coming live soon. That's the best we can do to work on them. The RP only missions, yes, they go on the networks. I mean, they become part of our coverage. That's one of the challenges to unlocking these big enterprise deals. You can imagine that the volume of data that Google wants, or an Esri wants, or a large insurance provider, call it a State Farm wants, because they don't just buy images one by one. Typically, what they want is a data service provider to integrate directly into their backend tools. And so, in order for them to expend the resources to integrate a data service provider, the coverage levels need to be at, everyone's different, but certain volumes of coverage. In order for us to get that volume of coverage, there's a catch-22, a cold start problem. So we hope that will help get us there. Programmatic capture will help get us there. Demand capture helps get us there. And by pulling all these pieces together, we start to show this traction, and we start to show a volume and an activity level that starts to make sense for more and more of these large scale players. So Niantic was the first. Skywatch as a distribution partner, the second. That leads straight into Esri, which we hope might be a third. We're planning to be a third. And there are several other large names that we're in regular and close contact with and working with champions inside of to make Spexy the dedicated drone layer within their applications. So it's a journey. The deal cycles are long. What we've proven, what you guys have proven is that we can capture large geographies, we can capture big swaths, we can capture across North America. Lots of these checkboxes that are now proven out. And so the big one, the big next ones for us are that we can deliver, in a timely fashion as a task network, that we can generate volume. All of these things are a part of unlocking these key deals. So it's busy. It's a lot on the inside. There's a lot in the background, and so making these decisions about where we go and how we go there and what's going to unlock the next door that moves us up that staircase is what's really happening in the background. Now, if you want to run through the demand missions, do you have them in front of you? I've
I
added them
don't
to.
have them in front of me at the moment.
Okay, I was working on the community call agenda. Without Bryce, we are woefully poor at getting our community call agenda together. Calgary just went live.
Right,
How many
just went
missions
live
there?
like minutes ago. 8 missions over there, totaling
8 missions.
84 USDC.
Uh,
Yeah, and they're actually reserved.
you guys are too fat. We need to get more missions on this board, Nav. Abilene, Texas went live, got reserved. Thank you, Duncan, for getting that done. That was a challenge. I look forward to hearing about it at some point. We had some conversations yesterday morning, but kudos to Duncan Smith for managing to get those done and wrap those up. Pittsburgh is live. Some were reserved. I saw Raspy Squid. You managed to grab a few of those. I think Earwig might have the rest locked up. So that reservation system is both working and not working, exactly how everybody wants it, depending on their perspective. Conversations continue and product design continues on how we try to make that an equitable system. But if you want to grow your reservations, the fastest and easiest way for you to do that will be to request some of these RP only missions and fly as many as it takes to get the reservations unlocked that you need to then be able to operate when things drop in your area. And questions are welcome. I would love to go over the details of. I wish there was a simple solution that worked for everybody. Reservations, if you're trying to plan to get somewhere in a day or two, work really well. Maybe if you're trying, if you're ready to get them today and someone blocks you because they have more reservations, it doesn't work very well. Both sides of that coin have truths. There are business needs. There are pilot desires. There are equity
Client requests as well.
client requests. There's equity and fairness at stake, so it's a fine needle to thread, and we do continue to work on it. Shout outs. So I don't think there's anything immediately live other than those. Colorado Springs went up, got reserved. Pittsburgh is reserved. Abilene's done. Calgary just went live and sounds like it's reserved. Scottsdale just about wrapped up. Thank you to all the pilots who have been out there in the sun and the heat and dealing with the different access points. And it sounds like a large HOA, etc. Not sure if he's online, but the pilot who jumped out and got Qualicum Beach for us, which is now done. That's recurring. Calgary also now has some recurring sites. We have some pilots doing some recurring in Tulsa and in West Texas. So just trying to highlight that the activity is increasing. It's obviously not the same as it was, 3 months ago when we were doing a lot of our sort of supply building capture, but we're working our way back there and it's coming. So yeah, my thank yous and shout outs were to Duncan and to everyone in Phoenix. And then my reminder that you can request your own missions. And
I
then
did want to
coverage.
bring up something about once you have a moment, Graham. I wanted to bring up something regarding an error we pilots experienced, but let me know.
No, do it now. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Technical update.
Right. So there was an issue recently where pilots experienced a flight execution error and they were able to find out like a workaround for it. I wanted to let you guys know that that's the best workaround which you guys have at the moment. There isn't another workaround. It seems to be this issue is related to the DJI SDK, and the team is working on it, and they've found out specific details which will help us alleviate this error. And in the upcoming app updates, we're expecting this to be resolved. So hang tight and try the workaround, which is basically you take off with your with your DJI Fly app, and then you switch back to the Spexy app, and then start flying the mission, and you won't get the flight execution error. That was
But
it.
we don't know we're starting to learn what causes it, but it doesn't seem to have, it seems intermittent, correct? Like it happens
It
to
is
something.
intermittent and it is related to the DJI SDK, so a little deeper dive which team is doing at the moment. But yeah, this is still being looked at.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, Raspy Squid talks about the frustration of the reservations. We do see that sometimes pilots hold them and then cancel them and then hold them again. So that isn't something we can right now in the back end like tweak or do a lot about easily. We've asked for that capability from our product team, but it's one of many priorities. Also some tweaks to the duration. We do now have reservable and non-reservable. Making a mission unreservable, as you can imagine, as pilots, can cause a similar type of frustration if two or more pilots start going towards those missions with the intention of collecting them sort of at the same time. And you leave to drive half an hour, 2 hours, and then while you're en route, another pilot arrives and starts flying. Obviously, another cause for frustration. So not being able to reserve isn't really a solve for the potential friction or frustration that you guys feel in the field. And being able to reserve and renew is also a friction. And so the duration of the reservations is being looked at. The the capability for us in the back end to manually sort of tweak or do things with reservations is being looked at. Those are kind of the two main things we're sort of maybe able to implement relatively quickly. I'm not sure, Duncan, battery fix would have been sent. I'm not sure what that meant. Uzi has a question that leads into the next thing that I was going to talk about. So the next topic today, which is coverage builders. So that's currently these RP only missions you're allowed to select, but also we'll be launching some RP only missions, basically just opening up zones and making them available for onboarding and for points. Integrating some utility into the points, including, as Uzi asks, will API access give him copyright permission, or essentially the ability to use or resell the data. Still under debate exactly how much, but that is generally the idea. The idea is that if you fly enough and you're given access, and then you're able to take that data and generate leads or sales or cool AI tools or whatever it might be, that would be the direction that we're headed. So it's sort of an opportunity to give and take, and that sort of builds the depth of the engagement between the community who is not only building the live map, but then also able to use and monetize the information from the live map. We get this nice cyclical sort of everybody's gaining, everybody's benefiting from. Then purchases come in, then demand comes in, then more programmatic capture, and so the whole thing starts to spin up. That's the goal, is that this flywheel really kicks off, and usage and demand and flight, and then usage and demand and flight, and usage and demand and flight. So I know for a fact, I mean, we've seen some of the really cool little add-ons and tools that community members have built for the Explorer, for the map view, for things like that. Uzi talking about training AI models, talking about developing or creating some sort of application that draws value from the data or derives value from the data that you're provided access to, and get that flywheel going. That's what we would like to do. We're restoring the RP lost for unflown reservations due to extended battery glitch. Yeah, I mean, again, the way currently the architecture of the reservations in the RP system is designed is it's hard-coded math. There's no RP, like no place in the code where your specific pilot RP balance is editable without like manipulating the status. It's derived from the status or the results of, say, the reservation cancellation or miss. And so we don't have a tool to go tweak it. We have to go right into the code. An engineer has to go right into the code. Our best bet for that is to maybe drop the RP missions that you're going to request are going to have 3 mission types in them. So those launch tomorrow. If you've put in a request, thank you to everyone who has. We've had 20 plus requests for those. What you're going to see come down is, Nav, correct me if I get this wrong, but I think I remember it all, 19 zones, so 19 hexes. That's a centroid, the ring around it, and the ring around that. So 2 concentric rings around a centroid, 19 zones. Within each of those zones, you will have 3 mission types. You have a single pano mission, so nice and quick, build up some RP fast, so 19 single panos. Then you'll have a hybrid mission, 19 hybrids, and you'll have a grid mapping mission.
Right. That is
so that you can, that's correct, Nev?
Yep.
That will allow you or new pilots or whoever to fly the different mission types, to test different permutations of battery combination, et cetera, to just submit data. If you're a believer in what it is that we're building, no obligation to fly any or all of them. Fly what makes sense for you as a pilot. And that is a total of, I believe, 1,425 reputation points if you were to fly all of them.
Right, 1,425.
1,425.
Yeah.
Unlocking about 14 reservations. So the ability to complete 14 reservations. So right now, the single onboarding hexagon allows for 1 or maybe 2 reservations. So extending that out, giving pilots who want to build up that reservation capacity but haven't had a chance to fly recently or since they onboarded the opportunity to do so. Again, alleviating the I wasn't able to reserve and everything got blocked out for me, hopefully for some pilots. Little steps, small wins, taking what we can, what we can speed, what we can do ourselves. So as we, obviously our product team has planned out their work over sprints and months and quarters. And so sometimes we're able to inject things quickly, sometimes we aren't. So Nav and I and Alec, our team works to take small wins given the tools that we have. So this is a small win given the tools that we have, is to allow pilots to fly and submit submissions and get some RP, while working with product to get some of these sort of other in-app things onto their roadmap and into the build. There's nothing wrong with the reservation system. Right, and 100%, James says. So this is exactly my point. For some, the reservation system works perfectly well, and for others, it feels detrimental or unfair. And so there's, that will be the reverse. If we were to do a complete 180, then all the people that love it would say it's unfair, and all the people that thought it was unfair might say they love it. So you see the bind that we are in. We will do the best we can to maintain a level of fairness and make it work for you as pilots and also for the business. You can imagine that right now, with the ability to reserve for 48 hours and then take another 72 hours to submit your data, there's a 5-day window That's the fastest we can promise turnaround to any client on any type of demand mission. And if a pilot chooses to do as some have and cancel and re-reserve for another 48 hours, that extends that window out. So there are also business needs. There's pilot desires and needs that are broad and diverse, and there's business needs that are broad and diverse depending on the client and the type of deliverable and urgency. So lots of things to balance on that front. Praying bugs get squashed. Now, are you keeping up on chats? I'm 18 messages behind.
I'm trying my best.
Rate limit suck with free Claude. Yeah. Oh, the $200 subscription is the good one. I have the $30 subscription myself. I haven't gone rid of the $200 one, but if you haven't tried at least free Claude or the basic tier and you do anything that's technical, I will personally say that you should give it a try, even if just for a month. It does unlock a lot of things if you're a digital creative of any sort. The place that I did see submissions that I think will likely be coming up, Duncan asked about Niantic for this month. I don't know that they'll make it live before the end of June, but they may well. They're moving pretty quickly through the pipe, is near Sacramento, Gold City or something like that. They might be there's been a request for some lower altitude Niantic flights, lower than 80. So they take a little bit of time to clear through planning and safety and stuff like that. But if you're heading towards Sacramento, that's in the pipeline, probably in the next week or two. Okay. Yeah, I think that, James said, making a comment about being considerate of reservations. I think that, yeah, I mean, everyone plays the game. It's been mentioned many times in the chat. The system's designed the way the system's designed. Everybody plays, within the confines of how the system is designed, and then we as a project look at that and go, oh, does this work? Does this fit? Is this causing a lot of friction? What tweaks could be made, should be made, need to be made, right? And balance all those needs. It's never going to be perfect, and it's never going to please everyone, but we respect and appreciate everyone out there doing the hard work and trying to make it work for themselves. Lower altitude will not yet be pre-baked, so we may work, Duncan, with yourself or some specific pilots in order to move that altitude on any type of mapping mission. We have to unlock something manually in the back end for those pilots. If you need imagery of an area in a few hours or same day. Oh, sorry, I missed the question, Nav, from Glenn. You and Glenn are having a little conversation.
Right. Glenn suggested that we should if we wanted imagery of an area quicker, like a high priority request sort of thing, right? So we reservations block you for 72 hours, block pilots, and so yeah, we're working on something like that and something similar, where we can have rapid reservations for high demand requests or high priority requests.
Yeah, two things we want there, and ELI wants you on the hit team as well. One thing Nav and I had some conversations with product about this week is shorter term reservations. So more like I'm ready to go, I can go do them, and so that reservation might only last for a few hours or maybe a day at most, and needs to be turned around more quickly. The other thing that coverage builder missions will lead into, and again, part of our concern about putting a bunch of RP only missions on the board is the obvious observation that is in a sense asking pilots to fly for free, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that your time and effort and energy has some payback, and that won't necessarily be monetary payback, as Uzi's pointed out. For some pilots, access to the imagery and the API would be really valuable. It could be really valuable. The ability to reserve high demand missions can be very valuable, or paid missions can be very valuable. And that hit team, or that tier of pilots, so having your regular tier of pilots and then having a tier of pilots would likely involve some level of points and some level of maintained activity on the network, which could be gained either through paid missions or through unpaid missions. So if you're a relatively new pilot and you want to move up faster, maybe you choose to hit those RP only missions to move into the tier. But we don't want to launch things before we have that baked. Like I'm someone that wants to make sure the give and take feels um,
Fair.
reciprocal, fair. And so, we know that people have been flying a lot of missions for a lot of different reasons, but we've, made a conscious effort to keep value to effort as fair as possible. As we launch some RP only missions, we want to make sure that that feels fair to the pilots, and the expectation is relatively well matched. And it's not, again, like the reservation system, it's not going to be perfect for everybody, and nobody, forces anybody to go out and fly any of these missions. You have to decide each individually if it makes sense for you to make that to make that investment of time and effort. But that's where that's going. So we find value that's not necessarily immediate monetary value, released cash from the Spexagon, but it's other types of value that you can choose to fly for and build into and level up into a tier that, maybe in order to access um, you know premium paid missions, as Glenn puts it, or be on a hit team, you have to meet certain criteria or requirements, and those could be flight hours, flight time, number of missions, number of points. They could also be things that I know sometimes I think it's Independent Galaform talks about, whether it's additional credentials, whether it's a radio operator certificate, whether it's, if we put missions down in Lance or controlled airspace, maybe there's a tier of pilots that's able to do those because they've provided certain amount of credentials or certifications that allows for that. So these are all awesome ideas, great hypotheticals. The real crux of it is that we want to make sure the value exchange is fair before we just throw a bunch of open missions on the board. Same here. Hit team. Do we have a way to track time from release to completion average for pilots? We do, yeah. If that's of interest, we don't have it surfaced right now. So like time from, we'd have to get into the specifics, but yes, that technically exists in the back end. We can see like time from launch to flight. We can see time from reservation to flight, things like that. So those could all be parameters. If people are interested in a personal time to completion nav, maybe that's something we could look into, just
Right.
a little report that we generate for individual pilots.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, so like I say, that stuff exists in the database and in the back end. We would have to figure out, what the design of that was and who got access to it and things like that. But that's interesting, guys, and I see a lot of interest in that. So definitely something we can raise with product, but B, again, looking at the priorities for our engineering team and our product team. If Nav and I and our team can do something manually that provides some value or that just seems cool for you guys, we are also open to trying to make that happen. A question about weather forecast. We do not consider weather forecasts when we launch, for the most part.
Unless there's like a hurricane right there.
Yeah, we do consider some extreme weather events. We do consider seasonality in certain parts of the world, obviously, but we don't consider like micro weather conditions. Just being all across North America, it's very, very difficult for us to monitor or manage, and it becomes basically too difficult for us to know, oh, okay, it says it might rain 60% chance. What's the threshold? Do we not launch if it's a 70% chance of rain tomorrow? Then do we delay it? And then do that? Those are just manual changes that we have to make in the back end that don't make sense. So typically, customer and demand requests, we launch as soon as we get confirmation from the client. So there's a request, we give them back here's what's flyable versus not flyable. If their request is in restricted airspace or an area we can't fly, we tell them that. If they approve it, we get those missions on the board essentially as quickly as we can. For those types of demand, the turnaround is quick as possible. For some of the larger like Niantic things and stuff like that, there's some planning and things that go into place, and there might be a launch date that's decided upon in advance. Usually still pretty quick turnaround. And then for our programmatic capture things and our supply-led missions, et cetera, things that we're growing our database with, those are sometimes pre-scheduled a little farther in advance. But then once they're scheduled, there's no consideration for weather beyond, as Nav mentioned, a hurricane or something of that sort. We might choose to pause some missions, a blizzard, an unexpected snowstorm. So that's that's it. Hopefully that answers some of the questions about the how and the why things happen the way they do. We understand that from a perspective of a pilot, it would be really nice if we could give weeks and months of notice and lots of work. And I mean that is our goal. The recurring capture missions, the programmatic capture missions, we are building towards that, and that's what the mature state of this network will be. Is that you'll see things coming up all the time. You'll have an idea of what what missions are part of what we call a campaign. You'll have that. Nav, what's the ETA on sort of the campaign awareness within the app?
Campaign awareness, we're looking at, I think, before like Q3, but before the beginning of August, I believe, or midway August somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So early Q3, another month,
Right.
1 to 2 months. You'll see in the app that groups of missions that launch together will be grouped into a specific campaign. And so you'll have an understanding of which campaigns are closest to you. There'll be some proximity stuff coming in the line. There'll be some notifications. So when a new campaign hits, you'll see that directly in the app. We're really excited for that. And you'll get an understanding of how groups of missions fit together, whether it be for specific clients or whatever it might be. And that's important for us operationally to understand like to what degree that request or that order is complete. So I see a question from ASVP Benzo about changing his, I assume he means his Discord username. So you can have a server name, Benzo. I think if you click on your profile and go in there, you can have a server name. Little
Right.
sidebar. Yeah, otherwise, we're at 3:02 here, so I'm going to let everybody go in respect for everybody's time, and I won't have to jump to another call. But we will have more and more coming out of the pipe, coming down the pipe. Growth is our goal, and activity for the pilots is our promise to you. So thank you, everyone, for spending half an hour with us this afternoon. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Nav, thanks for joining me and being my
Thank you.
co-host. And
No
yeah,
worries.
if someone wants to hit us up to try to Nav, we can look into quickly individual statistic report that we could put out for pilots. Happy to try to figure something like that out.
Right. I'll have to find a pathway on exactly how would we do this for like numerous requests.
Right.
We might get like 100 pilots asking for individual reports.
Every day, 100
Yeah.
reports every day. Yeah. That was
Yeah.
the last. Where's our X's? Yeah, exactly. Right on. So South Houston, League City, Texas is the next week's large scale launch. We are now focused on programmatic capture, and that obviously implies some level of refresh. Right on. Thanks all. Have a great
Thank you
afternoon,
all.
good evening, and we will see you next week. Hit us in the chat if there's any questions you have.